1번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
When a child is upset, the easiest and quickest way to calm them down is to give them food. This acts as a distraction from the feelings they are having, gives them something to do with their hands and mouth, and shifts their attention from whatever was upsetting them. If the food chosen is also seen as a treat such as sweets or a biscuit, then the child will feel treated and happier. In the shorter term, using food like this is effective, but in the longer term it can be harmful, as we quickly learn that food is a good way to. Then as we go through life, whenever we feel annoyed, anxious or even just bored, we turn to food to make ourselves feel better. 1. Make friends. 2. Learn etiquettes. 3. Improve memory. 4. Manage emotions. 5. Celebrate achievements. The answer is 4. Manage emotions.
2번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
Although many small businesses have excellent websites, they typically can't afford aggressive online campaigns. One way to get the word out is through an advertising exchange, in which advertisers place banners on each other's websites for free. For example, a company selling beauty products could place its banner on a site that sells women's shoes, and in turn, the shoe company could put a banner on the beauty product site. Neither company charges the other, they simply exchange ad space. Advertising exchanges are gaining in popularity, especially among marketers who do not have much money and who don't have a large sales team. Advertisers find new outlets that reach their target audiences that they would not otherwise be able to afford. 1. Trading space. 2. Getting funded. 3. Sharing reviews. 4. Renting factory facilities. 5. Increasing TV commercials. The answer is 1. Trading space.
3번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
Provides a change to the environment for journalists. Newspaper stories, television reports, and even early online reporting, prior to communication technology, such as tablets and smartphones, required one central place, to which a reporter would submit his or her news story for printing, broadcast, or posting. Now, though, a reporter can shoot video, record audio, and type directly on their smartphones or tablets and post a news story instantly. Journalists do not need to report to a central location, where they all contact sources, type, or edit video. A story can be instantaneously written, shot, and made available to the entire world. The news cycle, and thus the job of the journalist, never takes a break. Thus the 24-hour news cycle that emerged from the rise of cable TV is now a thing of the past. The news cycle is really a constant. 1. Mobility. 2. Sensitivity. 3. Creativity. 4. Accuracy. 5. Responsibility. The answer is 1. Mobility.
4번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
Motivation may come from several sources. It may be the respect I give every student, the daily greeting I give at my classroom door, the undivided attention when I listen to a student, a pat on the shoulder whether the job was done well or not, an accepting smile, or simply I love you when it is most needed. It may simply be asking how things are at home. For one student considering dropping out of school, it was a note from me after one of his frequent absences, saying that he made my day when I saw him in school. He came to me with the note with tears in his eyes and thanked me. He will graduate this year. Whatever technique is used, the students must know that but the concern must be genuine. The students can't be fooled. 1. Care about them. 2. Keep your words. 3. Differ from them. 4. Evaluate their performance. 5. Communicate with their parents. The answer is 1. Care about them.
5번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
We don't send telegraphs to communicate anymore, but it's a great metaphor for giving advance notice. Sometimes you must inform those close to you of upcoming change by conveying important information well in advance. There's a huge difference between saying, from now on, we will do things differently, which doesn't give people enough time to understand and accept the change, and saying something like, starting next month, we're going to approach things differently. Telegraphing empowers people to. Telegraphing involves the art of seeing an upcoming event or circumstance, and giving others enough time to process and accept the change. Telegraph anything that will take people out of what is familiar and comfortable to them. This will allow processing time for them to accept the circumstances and make the most of what's happening. 1. Unite. 2. Adapt. 3. Object. 4. Compete. 5. Recover. The answer is 2. Adapt.
6번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
Sometimes it is that gives a business a competitive advantage. Until recently, bicycles had to have many gears, often 15 or 20, for them to be considered high-end. But fixed-gear bikes with minimal features have become more popular, as those who buy them are happy to pay more for much less. The overall profitability of these bikes is much higher than the more complex ones, because they do a single thing really well without the cost of added complexity. Companies should be careful of getting into a war over adding more features with their competitors, as this will increase cost, and almost certainly reduce profitability because of competitive pressure on price. 1. Simpler product. 2. Affordable price. 3. Consumer loyalty. 4. Customized design. 5. Eco-friendly technology. The answer is 1. Simpler product.
7번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
The law of demand is that the demand for goods and services increases as prices fall, and the demand falls as prices increase. Giffen goods are special types of products, for which the traditional law of demand does not apply. Instead of switching to cheaper replacements, consumers demand more of Giffen goods when the price increases and less of them when the price decreases. Taking an example, rice in China is a Giffen good, because people tend to purchase less of it when the price falls. The reason for this is, when the price of rice falls, people have more money to spend on other types of products such as meat and dairy, and, therefore, change their spending pattern. On the other hand, as rice prices increase, people 1. Order more meat. 2. Consume more rice. 3. Try to get new jobs. 4. Increase their savings. 5. Start to invest overseas. The answer is 2. Consume more rice.
8번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
One of the most important aspects of providing good care is making sure that an animal's needs are being met consistently and predictably. Like humans, animals need a sense of control. So an animal who may get enough food, but doesn't know when the food will appear and can see no consistent schedule may experience distress. We can provide a sense of control by ensuring that our animal's environment is there is always water available and always in the same place. There is always food when we get up in the morning and after our evening walk. There will always be a time and place to eliminate without having to hold things in to the point of discomfort. Human companions can display consistent emotional support, rather than providing love one moment and withholding love the next. When animals know what to expect, they can feel more confident and calm. 1. Silent. 2. Natural. 3. Isolated. 4. Dynamic. 5. Predictable. The answer is 5. Predictable.
9번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
Consider your typical day. You wake up in the morning and pour yourself juice from oranges grown in Florida and coffee from beans grown in Brazil. Over breakfast, you watch a news program broadcast from New York on your television made in Japan. You get dressed in clothes made of cotton grown in Georgia and sewn in factories in Thailand. Every day, you rely on many people, most of whom you do not know, to provide you with the goods and services that you enjoy. Such is possible because people trade with one another. Those people providing you goods and services are not acting out of generosity, nor is some government agency directing them to satisfy your desires. Instead, people provide you and other consumers with the goods and services they produce, because they get something in return. 1. Interdependence. 2. Competition. 3. Unfairness. 4. Regulation. 5. Charity. The answer is 1. Interdependence.
10번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
People are attracted to individuals and things they cannot readily obtain. In the case with things, people are more attracted to a desired object because it is out of their reach. When the object of desire is finally gained, the attraction for the object rapidly decreases, Christmas presents provide a good example of this phenomenon. Toys children wanted all year long are thrown away several days after they are taken from gift boxes under the tree. The phenomenon also holds true for human interaction, particularly in the early stages of a developing relationship. The common dating rule has scientific merit. An individual should not always make himself or herself readily available to the person they are targeting for a longer-term relationship. A certain level of will make you more of a mystery and a challenge. 1. Distrust. 2. Difference. 3. Intelligence. 4. Irresponsibility. 5. Unavailability. The answer is 5. Unavailability.
11번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
In small towns the same workman makes chairs and doors and tables. And often the same person builds houses. And it is, of course, impossible for a man of many trades to be skilled in all of them. In large cities, on the other hand, because many people make demands on each trade, one trade alone, very often even less than a whole trade is enough to support a man. For instance, one man makes shoes for men, and another for women. And there are places even where one man earns a living by only stitching shoes, another by cutting them out, and another by sewing the uppers together. Such skilled workers may have used simple tools, but there did result in more efficient and productive work. 1. Specialization. 2. Criticism. 3. Competition. 4. Diligence. 5. Imagination. The answer is 1. Specialization.
12번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
Face-to-face interaction is a uniquely powerful, and sometimes the only way to share many kinds of knowledge, from the simplest to the most complex. It is one of the best ways to stimulate new thinking and ideas, too. Most of us would have had difficulty learning how to tie a shoelace only from pictures, or how to do arithmetic from a book. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi found, while studying high achievers, that a large number of Nobel Prize winners were the students of previous winners. They had access to the same literature as everyone else, but made a crucial difference to their creativity. Within organizations, this makes conversation both a crucial factor for high-level professional skills and the most important way of sharing everyday information. 1. Natural talent. 2. Regular practice. 3. Personal contact. 4. Complex knowledge. 5. Powerful motivation. The answer is 3. Personal contact.
13번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
One of the big questions faced this past year was how to keep innovation rolling when people were working entirely virtually. But experts say that digital work didn't have a negative effect on innovation and creativity. Working within limits pushes us to solve problems. Overall, virtual meeting platforms put more constraints on communication and collaboration than face-to-face settings. For instance, with the press of a button, virtual meeting hosts can control the size of breakout groups and enforce time constraints. Only one person can speak at a time. Nonverbal signals, particularly those below the shoulders, or diminished seating arrangements are assigned by the platform, not by individuals, and visual access to others may be limited by the size of each participant's screen. Such are likely to stretch participants beyond their usual ways of thinking, boosting creativity. 1. Restrictions. 2. Responsibilities. 3. Memories. 4. Coincidences. 5. Traditions. The answer is 1. Restrictions.
14번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
The prevailing view among developmental scientists is that people are active contributors to their own development. People are influenced by the physical and social contexts in which they live. But they also play a role in influencing their development by interacting with and changing those contexts. Even infants influence the world around them and construct their own development through their interactions. Consider an infant who smiles at each adult he sees. He influences his world because adults are likely to smile, use baby talk, and play with him in response. The infant brings adults into close contact, making one-on-one interactions and creating opportunities for learning. By engaging the world around them, thinking, being curious, and interacting with people, objects, and the world around them, individuals of all ages are 1. Mirrors of their generation. 2. Shields against social conflicts. 3. Explorers in their own career path. 4. Followers of their childhood dreams. 5. Manufacturers of their own development. The answer is 5. Manufacturers of their own development.
15번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
The mind is essentially a survival machine. Attack and defense against other minds, gathering, storing, and analyzing information. This is what it is good at. But it is not at all creative. All true artists create from a place of no mind, from inner stillness. Even great scientists have reported that their creative breakthroughs came at a time of mental quietude. The surprising result of a nationwide inquiry among America's most famous mathematicians, including Einstein, to find out their working methods, was that thinking plays only a subordinate part in the brief, decisive phase of the creative act itself. So I would say that the simple reason why the majority of scientists are not creative is not because they don't know how to think, but because they don't know how to 1. Organize their ideas, 2. Interact socially, 3. Stop thinking, 4. Gather information, 5. Use their imagination. The answer is 3. Stop thinking.
16번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
We worry that the robots are taking our jobs. But just as common a problem is that the robots are taking our. In the large warehouses so common behind the scenes of today's economy, human pickers hurry around grabbing products off shelves and moving them to where they can be packed and dispatched. In their ears are headpieces. The voice of Jennifer, a piece of software, tells them where to go and what to do, controlling the smallest details of their movements. Jennifer breaks down instructions into tiny chunks to minimize error and maximize productivity. For example, rather than picking 18 copies of a book off a shelf, the human worker would be politely instructed to pick 5. Then another 5. Then yet another 5. Then another 3. Working in such conditions reduces people to machines made of flesh. Rather than asking us to think or adapt, the Jennifer unit takes over the thought process and treats workers as an inexpensive source of some visual processing and a pair of opposable thumbs. 1. Reliability. 2. Judgment. 3. Endurance. 4. Sociability. 5. Cooperation. The answer is 2. Judgment.
17번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
Why doesn't the modern American accent sound similar to a British accent? After all, didn't the British colonize the U.S.? Experts believe that British residents and the colonists who settled America all sounded the same back in the 18th century. And they probably all sounded more like modern Americans than modern Brits. The accent that we identify as British today was developed around the time of the American Revolution by people of low birth rank who had become wealthy during the Industrial Revolution. To distinguish themselves from other commoners, these people developed new ways of speaking to set themselves apart and demonstrate their new, elevated. In the 19th century, this distinctive accent was standardized as received pronunciation and taught widely by pronunciation tutors to people who wanted to learn to speak fashionably. 1. Social status. 2. Fashion sense. 3. Political pressures. 4. Colonial involvement. 5. Intellectual achievements. The answer is 1. Social status.
18번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
Good managers have learned to overcome the initial feelings of anxiety when assigning tasks. They are aware that no two people act in exactly the same way, and so do not feel threatened if they see one employee going about a task differently than another. Instead, they focus on if a job was successfully done, as long as people are working in a manner acceptable to the organization. For example, as long as salespeople are keeping to the company's ethical selling policy, then that's fine. If an acceptable final outcome wasn't achieved, then such managers respond by discussing it with the employee and analyzing the situation to find out what training or additional skills that person will need to do the task successfully in the future. 1. The end result. 2. The welfare policy. 3. The uniform procedure. 4. The informal atmosphere. 5. The employee's personality. The answer is 1. The end result.
19번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은 3점.
All mammals need to leave their parents and set up on their own at some point. But human adults generally provide a comfortable existence. Enough food arrives on the table. Money is given at regular intervals, the bills get paid. And the electricity for the TV doesn't usually run out. If teenagers didn't build up a fairly major disrespect for and conflict with their parents or carers, they'd never want to leave. In fact, is probably a necessary part of growing up. Later, when you live independently, away from them, you can start to love them again because you won't need to be fighting to get away from them. And you can come back sometimes for a home-cooked meal. 1. Developing financial management skills. 2. Learning from other people's experiences. 3. Figuring out your strengths and interests. 4. Managing relationship problems with your peers. 5. Falling out of love with the adults who look after you. The answer is 5. Falling out of love with the adults who look after you.
20번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은
In a culture where there is a belief that you can have anything you truly want, there is no problem in choosing. Many cultures, however, do not maintain this belief. In fact, many people do not believe that life is about getting what you want. Life is about doing what you are supposed to do. The reason they have trouble making choices is they believe that what they may want is not related to what they are supposed to do. The weight of outside considerations is greater than their. When this is an issue in a group, we discuss what makes for good decisions. If a person can be unburdened from their cares and duties and, just for a moment, consider what appeals to them, they get the chance to sort out what is important to them. Then they can consider and negotiate with their external pressures. 1. Desires. 2. Merits. 3. Abilities. 4. Limitations. 5. Worries. The answer is 1. Desires.
21번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은
Research has confirmed that athletes are less likely to participate in unacceptable behavior than are non-athletes. However, moral reasoning and good sporting behavior seem to decline as athletes progress to higher competitive levels, in part because of the increased emphasis on winning. Thus, winning can be in teaching character development. Some athletes may want to win so much that they lie, cheat, and break team rules. They may develop undesirable character traits that can enhance their ability to win. In the short term, however, when athletes resist the temptation to win in a dishonest way, they can develop positive character traits that last a lifetime. Character is a learned behavior, and a sense of fair play develops only if coaches plan to teach those lessons systematically. 1. A piece of cake. 2. A one-way street. 3. A bird in the hand. 4. A fish out of water. 5. A double-edged sword. The answer is 5. A double-edged sword.
22번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은 3점.
Over time, babies construct expectations about what sounds they will hear when they hold in memory the sound patterns that occur on a regular basis. They make hypotheses like, if I hear this sound first, it probably will be followed by that sound. Scientists conclude that much of babies' skill in learning language is due to their. For babies, this means that they appear to pay close attention to the patterns that repeat in language. They remember, in a systematic way, how often sounds occur, in what order, with what intervals, and with what changes of pitch. This memory store allows them to track, within the neural circuits of their brains, the frequency of sound patterns and to use this knowledge to make predictions about the meaning in patterns of sounds. 1. Lack of social pressures. 2. Ability to calculate statistics. 3. Desire to interact with others. 4. Preference for simpler sounds. 5. Tendency to imitate caregivers. The answer is 2. Ability to calculate statistics.
23번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은
Generalization without specific examples that humanize writing is boring to the listener and to the reader. Who wants to read platitudes all day? Who wants to hear the words great, greater, best, smartest, finest, humanitarian, on and on and on without specific examples? Instead of using these nothing words, leave them out completely and just describe the. There is nothing worse than reading a scene in a novel. in which a main character is described up front as heroic or brave or tragic or funny. While thereafter, the writer quickly moves on to something else. That's no good at all. You have to use less one-word descriptions and more detailed, engaging descriptions. If you want to make something real. 1. Similarities. 2. Particulars. 3. Fantasies. 4. Boredom. 5. Wisdom. The answer 2. Particulars.
24번 최고 오답률. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
What do advertising and mapmaking have in common? Without doubt, the best answer is their shared need to communicate a limited version of the truth. An advertisement must create an image that's appealing and a map must present an image that's clear. But neither can meet its goal by. Ads will cover up or play down negative aspects of the company or service they advertise. In this way, they can promote a favorable comparison with similar products or differentiate a product from its competitors. Likewise, the map must remove details that would be confusing. 1. Reducing the amount of information. 2. Telling or showing everything. 3. Listening to people's voices. 4. Relying on visual images only. 5. Making itself available to everyone. The answer 2. Telling or showing everything.
25번 최고 오답률. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
When reading another scientist's findings, think critically about the experiment. Ask yourself, were observations recorded during or after the experiment? Do the conclusions make sense? Can the results be repeated? Are the sources of information reliable? You should also ask if the scientist or group conducting the experiment was unbiased. Being unbiased means that you have no special interest in the outcome of the experiment. For example, if a drug company pays for an experiment to test how well one of its new products works, there is a special interest involved: the drug company profits. If the experiment shows that its product is effective, therefore, the experimenters aren't. They might ensure the conclusion is positive and benefits the drug company. When assessing results, think about any biases that may be present. 1. Inventive. 2. Objective. 3. Untrustworthy. 4. Unreliable. 5. Decisive. The answer 2. Objective.
26번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
Recently I was with a client who had spent almost 5 hours with me. As we were parting for the evening, we reflected on what we had covered that day. Even though our conversation was very collegial, I noticed that my client was holding one leg at a right angle to his body, seemingly wanting to take off on its own. At that point I said, "You really do have to leave now, don't you?" "Yes," he admitted. "I am so sorry. I didn't want to be rude, but I have to call London and I only have 5 minutes." Here was a case where my client's language and most of his body revealed nothing but positive feelings. His feet, however, were, and they clearly told me that, as much as he wanted to stay, duty was calling. 1. A signal of his politeness. 2. The subject of the conversation. 3. Expressing interest in my words. 4. The most honest communicators. 5. Stepping excitedly onto the ground. The answer 4. The most honest communicators.
27번 최고 오답률. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
One big difference between science and stage magic is that, while magicians hide their mistakes from the audience, in science you make your mistakes in public. You show them off so that everybody can learn from them. This way, you get the advantage of everybody else's experience, and not just your own idiosyncratic path through the space of mistakes. This, by the way, is another reason why we humans are so much smarter than every other species. It is not that our brains are bigger or more powerful, or even that we have the ability to reflect on our own past errors, but that our individual brains have earned from their individual histories of trial and error. 1. Share the benefits. 2. Overlook the insights. 3. Develop creative skills. 4. Exaggerate the achievements. 5. Underestimate the knowledge. The answer 1. Share the benefits.
28번 최고 오답률. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
Since a great deal of day-to-day academic work is boring and repetitive, you need to be well motivated to keep doing it. A mathematician sharpens her pencils, works on a proof, tries A few approaches, gets nowhere, and finishes for the day. A writer sits down at his desk, produces a few hundred words, decides they are no good, throws them in the bin, and hopes for better inspiration tomorrow. To produce something worthwhile, if it ever happens, may require years of such labor. The Nobel Prize-winning biologist Peter Medawar said that about 4/5 of his time in science was wasted, adding sadly that nearly all scientific research leads nowhere. What kept all of these people going when things were going badly was their passion for their subject. Without such passion, they would have achieved nothing. 1. Cooperative. 2. Productive. 3. Fruitless. 4. Dangerous. 5. Irregular. The answer is 3. Fruitless.
29번 최고 오답률. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
People engage in typical patterns of interaction, based on the relationship between their roles and the roles of others. Employers are expected to interact with employees in a certain way, as are doctors with patients. In each case, actions are restricted by the role, responsibilities and obligations associated with individuals' positions within society. For instance, parents and children are linked by certain rights, privileges, and obligations. Parents are responsible for providing their children with the basic necessities of life: food, clothing, shelter, and so forth. These expectations are so powerful that not meeting them may make the parents vulnerable to charges of negligence or abuse. Children, in turn, are expected to do as their parents say. Thus, interactions within a relationship are functions, not only of the individual personalities of the people involved, but also of the role requirements associated with they have. 1. Careers. 2. Statuses. 3. Abilities. 4. Motivations. 5. Perspectives. The answer 2. Statuses.
30번 최고 오답률. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
The title of Thomas Friedman's 2005 book, The World is Flat, was based on the belief that globalization would inevitably bring us closer together. It has done that, but it has also inspired us. When faced with perceived threats, the financial crisis, terrorism, violent conflict, refugees and immigration, the increasing gap between rich and poor people cling more tightly to their groups. One founder of a famous social media company believed social media would unite us. In some respects it has, but it has simultaneously given voice and organizational ability to new cyber tribes, some of whom spend their time spreading blame and division across the World Wide Web. There seem now to be as many tribes, and as much conflict between them, as there have ever been. Is it possible for these tribes to coexist in a world where the concept of us and them remains? 1. To build barriers. 2. To achieve equality. 3. To abandon traditions. 4. To value individualism. 5. To develop technologies. The answer 1. To build barriers.
31번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
Creativity is a skill we usually consider uniquely human. For all of human history, we have been the most creative beings on Earth. Birds can make their nests, ants can make their hills. But no other species on Earth comes close to the level of creativity we humans display. However, just in the last decade we have acquired the ability to do amazing things with computers, like developing robots. With the artificial intelligence boom of the 2010s, computers can now recognize faces, translate languages, take calls for you, write poems, and beat players at the world's most complicated board game, to name a few things. All of a sudden, we must face the possibility that our ability to be creative is not 1. Unrivaled. 2. Learned. 3. Universal. 4. Ignored. 5. Challenge. The answer is 1. Unrivaled.
32번. 다음 글의 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은? 3점.
In an experiment, researchers presented participants with 2 photos of faces, and asked participants to choose the photo that they thought was more attractive, and then handed participants that photo. Using a clever trick inspired by stage magic, when participants received the photo, it had been switched to the photo not chosen by the participant, the less attractive photo. Remarkably, most participants accepted this photo as their own choice, and then proceeded to give arguments for why they had chosen that face in the first place. This revealed a striking mismatch between our choices and our ability to. This same finding has since been observed in various domains, including taste for jam and financial decisions. 1. Keep focused. 2. Solve problems. 3. Rationalize outcomes. 4. Control our emotions. 5. Attract others' attention. The answer is 3. Rationalize outcomes.
33번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
To demonstrate how best to defeat the habit of delaying, Dan Ariely, a professor of psychology and behavioral economics, performed an experiment on students in 3 of his classes at MIT. He assigned all classes 3 reports over the course of the semester. The first class had to choose 3 due dates for themselves, up to and including the last day of class. The second had no deadlines. All 3 papers just had to be submitted by the last day of class. In his third class, he gave students 3 set deadlines over the course of the semester. At the end of the semester, he found that students with set deadlines received the best grades, the students with no deadlines had the worst, and those who could choose their own deadlines fell somewhere in the middle. Ariely concludes that whether by the professor or by students who recognize their own tendencies to delay things, improves self-control and performance. 1. Offering rewards. 2. Removing obstacles. 3. Restricting freedom. 4. Increasing assignments. 5. Encouraging competition. The answer is 3. Restricting freedom.
34번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
People differ in how quickly they can reset their biological clocks to overcome jet lag. And the speed of recovery depends on the of travel. Generally, it's easier to fly westward and lengthen your day than it is to fly eastward and shorten it. This east-west difference in jet lag is sizable enough to have an impact on the performance of sports teams. Studies have found that teams flying westward perform significantly better than teams flying eastward in professional baseball and college football. A more recent study of more than 46,000 Major League Baseball games found additional evidence that eastward travel is tougher than westward travel. 1. Direction. 2. Purpose. 3. Season. 4. Length. 5. Cost. The answer is 1. Direction.
35번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
Individuals who perform at a high level in their profession often have instant credibility with others. People admire them, they want to be like them, and they feel connected to them. When they speak, others listen even if the area of their skill has nothing to do with the advice they give. Think about a world-famous basketball player. He has made more money from endorsements than he ever did playing basketball. Is it because of his knowledge of the products he endorses? No. It's because of what he can do with a basketball. The same can be said of an Olympic medalist swimmer. People listen to him because of what he can do in the pool. And when an actor tells us we should drive a certain car, we don't listen because of his expertise on engines. We listen because we admire his talent. Connects. If you possess a high level of ability in an area, others may desire to connect with you because of it. 1. Patience. 2. Sacrifice. 3. Honesty. 4. Excellence. 5. Creativity. The answer is 4. Excellence.
36번. 다음 빈칸에 들어갈 말로 가장 적절한 것은?
Many people are terrified to fly in airplanes. Often, this fear stems from a lack of control. The pilot is in control, not the passengers, and this lack of control instills fear. Many potential passengers are so afraid they choose to drive great distances to get to a destination instead of flying. But their decision to drive is based solely on emotion, not logic. Logic says that statistically, the odds of dying in a car crash are around 1 in 5,000, while the odds of dying in a plane crash are closer to 1 in 11 million. If you're going to take a risk, especially one that could possibly involve your well-being, wouldn't you want the odds in your favor? However, most people choose the option that will cause them the least amount of. Pay attention to the thoughts you have about taking the risk, and make sure you're basing your decision on facts, not just feelings. 1. Anxiety. 2. Boredom. 3. Confidence. 4. Satisfaction. 5. Responsibility. The answer is 1. Anxiety.